I watched you drive home from work yesterday. Ordinarily, I sit by the window and breathe on the glass as you arrive so that I can write vaguely juvenile insults and sketch lewd drawings on the surface with my finger in the condensation. But I didn't yesterday. Yesterday, I was in the car with you, humming softly in the back seat. I had to entertain myself somehow as you didn't turn the radio on, and there's very little scenery between your home and your work besides grass and the occasional menacing child shaking its fist and scowling at the moon. I don't know what I was expecting. For some reason, I thought you'd cry. Most days, when I watch you arrive, you pause for a moment before you turn off the ignition and exit the vehicle. You stare off into space and always look slightly puffy and misty-eyed as if you had just been bawling, but maybe your face just always looks flushed. Maybe I'm reading too far into things. Maybe you're just genetically predisposed to have the puffy, watery, bloodshot eyes of a hysterical widow. Or maybe the sadness has so seeped into you that you have no tears left. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. I was just surprised is all. You actually didn't do much of anything. You cleared your throat at a couple stop signs. I think you might have sneezed at one point. Most of all, there was just silence and the occasional clicking of the turn signal and the sound of heavy breath. What an odd life you lead. You wake up, go to work, you eat dinner, you go to bed. Sometimes you eat at the diner. Sometimes you sleep at Mary Ann's house after an evening of mediocre intercourse. I say mediocre because it seems like neither of you are particularly satisfied, and the only real chemistry I've seen displayed comes from forced verbal exchanges between the bedsheets. Does that feel good? You whisper, after clearing your throat. Yes, she responds. It doesn't feel good. You're assaulting her clitoris like an elevator button. I've always wondered how on earth you'd think that would feel good to anyone. But she is far more polite than I. You continue for a bit with your awkward gyrations, slightly reminiscent of a cobra being mauled by a particularly apathetic mongoose. She sighs. Did you say something, you ask? No, she says. Ultimately, the evening is concluded when either one of you comes, or more likely, your leg cramps. Both of you want to be alone after, but are too polite to say so. So when she welcomes you to stay the night, you always accept the offer. You inevitably end up at opposite sides of the mattress, 6.5 inches apart, clutching your respective pillows, facing away from each other, and feeling so immensely alone. Do you feel alone now, I wonder, while you drive home from work? Or is the route so well known, the motions so rote, that you do them in a daze? Are you feeling anything? I suspect you are quietly deliberating whether or not you want to go to the diner. You have leftovers at home, but the diner has that waitress that reminds you of your grandmother and gives you free slices of peach cobbler. You politely pretend not to notice her thick arthritic finger joints, or her limp, or the Confederate flag enamel pin on her apron that says heritage, not hate, in cutesy curly Q cursive. I can see it on your face. You haven't made up your mind yet. In fact, I suspect that you haven't made up your mind about much of anything. You drive to work. You drive home. Sometimes you drive to Mary Ann's, and sometimes you get cobbler. But mostly, you just drive and breathe. I'm impartial either way. I just wish that you would turn on the radio.